Hey, I'm Amanda, and this is The Middle of It, podcast about the messy but beautiful in between parts of life. I want to start this week with something that's been sitting with me, this idea of choice. Not the heavy kind that feels like pressure, but the kind that feels like freedom. I was cleaning my kitchen this weekend, just doing normal life, and I realized something simple but huge. Everything on my plate is there because I put it there. That doesn't mean every part of it is easy or fun, but it does mean I get to decide. And I think sometimes we forget that. We live in a world constantly showing us what life is supposed to look like. The picture perfect homes, the spotless routines, the milestones lined up in the right order. But the truth is, your life is yours to build. You get to choose what matters. You get to decide what fills your plate and what doesn't even make it to the table. And obviously, as we head into Thanksgiving, I keep picturing that plate. No two look the same. Some people take a big scoop of one thing and skip another completely. And that's not wrong, it's just personal. That's what I want to talk about today, the freedom to make choices that are authentic to you, even when they don't look like anyone else's. Because peace doesn't live in what's expected, it lives in what's true. Somewhere along the way, we absorbed the idea that a good woman does it all: work, home, fitness, family, friendships, flawless in every category. But if you look closely, that belief doesn't come from truth. It comes from a culture that praises productivity and polish over peace. The phrase, "I don't know how you do it," sounds like a compliment, but underneath it says, "Look how much you carry." And before we know it, we start measuring our worth by the weight of the load. Here's what's real: you can't do it all, but you can do what matters. And when you focus there, the rest starts to lose its hold. Recovery really taught me this. It's where I first learned that everything on my plate is a choice, and that balance isn't about performing perfection. It's about living with intention. It's why I don't see taking time for myself as selfish anymore. Going to a meeting, writing, moving my body, those are the things that make me better in every other role I have. That's how I stay steady enough to give without falling apart. So, what would shift if you replaced "I have to do it all" with "I get to choose what matters most today"? So then there's the whole world of comparison: Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, the endless scroll of perfect homes and perfect routines. And don't get me wrong, I get caught up in the doom scrolling of it too. There's the same color palettes, the same pantries, same everything. Beautiful? Sure, absolutely. But also a little boring, right? I used to scroll through those photos and feel like I was missing some secret manual. But one night it hit me: I don't even want the life I'm comparing mine to. That realization was such a relief because it reminded me that beauty isn't in sameness, it's in authenticity. If your peace comes from tidy shelves, awesome. If your peace comes from paint splattered counters and laughter in the kitchen, wonderful too. There's no moral ranking between order and chaos. It's just preference. So, where might you be chasing someone else's picture instead of living your own? When I remember that, I feel lighter, like scraping half the cranberry sauce off my plate to make more room for what I actually love, which is, of course, sweet potato casserole. Here's the heart of it: we are allowed to choose differently. Maybe your version of joy is raising kids. Maybe it's not having them. Maybe it's a quiet home or a passport full of stamps or a career that lights you up. Whatever it is, it's yours. The world tries to hand us pre made plates, perfect home, perfect job, perfect body. But life is a buffet, not a checklist. You get to walk that line and decide what you're hungry for. Big scoop of community work? Go for it. Tiny spoonful of social media? Perfect. Skip the cranberry sauce entirely if you want to. I probably will. Once you realize that, someone else's choices stop feeling like competition and start looking like proof of possibility. What choice in your life feels like freedom, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else? Because that right there is where authenticity lives. So the more I thought about it, the more I kept coming back to that Thanksgiving plate. I was probably hungry. How we all fill ours differently. Some people love turkey. Some skip it entirely. Some pile on mashed potatoes. Others double up on the green bean casserole. The beauty is that it's all choice, and life works the same way. I've realized that the things I've chosen to fill my plate with, my kids, my recovery program, this podcast, cooking dinner most nights, spending time with Alex, working out, these are the things that keep me alive. But also, it means that my plate can't hold everything else at the same time. And that's okay. It means sometimes, most of the time, the house isn't perfect. Sometimes the laundry sits unfolded or the yard isn't perfectly kept, and there's one room that's just perpetually in progress. And that used to bother me a lot. Now I'm learning to be at peace with it because this life I'm building, it's mine. It's intentional. And that matters so much more than whether every room is in order at once. I used to feel guilt about that imbalance. Now, when I catch myself noticing the mess, I think, yeah, but look at what I chose instead. And I'll see the podcast or going to the gym or going to the mall with the girls. I've also found ways to make the things I don't love a little more joyful, like cleaning. I might not always feel like doing it, but if I know someone's coming over, it changes everything. Suddenly, it's not a chore. It's an act of love, an act of pride in my home and in the people I get to welcome into it. It turns the ordinary into something that connects me back to gratitude. What might you be able to accept about your life right now if you saw it not as a failure, but as a reflection of what you've chosen to prioritize? I won't lie, it's still hard to do. There are days when I wish the house looked like the pictures I see online. But then there are these little moments that remind me why I've made the choices I have. The way Bryn laughs when I dance around our messy kitchen, the conversations with women in recovery who remind me what purpose feels like, the quiet when Alex and I finally sit down after a long day and just breathe. Those are the things that make me feel alive. And when I focus on those, it's easier to see the trade offs not as sacrifices, but as strategy. I'm building my life around what matters to me. When I told Alex this and this joy that I had as I cleaned the kitchen over the weekend, he literally high fived me. It was like his way of saying, "Good job doing what fills you." He's also been a huge voice of reason when it comes to outsourcing. He does it all the time for his business, hands off tasks, and takes on time to other things that he needs to focus on. And together, we've realized that's not laziness. It's wisdom. It's using our resources to create time for what actually feeds us. So lately, we've started to outsource a few things: yard work, little cleaning things, small household projects. It's our way of creating margin, of reclaiming our peace. Sometimes I even feel a little guilty for how easy it is for me to just go to the meeting, stay after, get to the gym. Like it's hardly ever an issue. But honestly, what a gift that is. Because when we fill our own cup, we can then pour it into others by giving back without resentment, giving it to our children, giving to other people, giving to our community. It all flows better when we're not empty. When we fill our own cup first, we can pour into others freely, not out of obligation, but from love. So, what would it look like if you stopped apologizing for the things that make you feel like you again? What could you hand off, delegate, or simply release so that you can reclaim time for what really matters to you? Because we don't get extra hours. We just decide where the ones we have go. There's this cultural lie that having it all means doing everything all at once without dropping a single ball. But that's not having it all. That's carrying it all. And those two things are not the same. Having it all to me means waking up in a life that feels like mine. It means living aligned with what I value, not what I think I should value. It means being okay with a little bit of mess, a little bit of undone in exchange for presence, joy, and connection. I think when we start redefining having it all, the pressure softens. We start to celebrate each other's differences instead of comparing them because everyone's all looks different. Your all might be a quiet home and a full bookshelf. That sounds beautiful. Someone else's might be a packed suitcase and a passport full of stamps. Super fun. Mine happens to be laughter, recovery, creativity, and cooking dinners. And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm knocking the women who find their peace in order and cleanliness. I have friends who literally can't go to bed if the kitchen isn't spotless. And I love them for that. Their peace comes from calm and organization. Mine comes from connection and chaos. Both are valid, both are beautiful. Having it all isn't about sameness, it's about satisfaction. There's room for all of it because there's no single way to be whole. If you stopped chasing having it all, what would your version of enough look like instead? So here's where I land. The dishes will get done. Maybe not tonight, maybe not perfectly, but they will. But the laughter with my kids, the quiet after a meeting, the spark I feel when I'm writing or recording, those are the moments that make me feel alive. And I don't want to trade that aliveness for a spotless house or a perfectly curated schedule. My piece doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Yours doesn't either. So, as we move into this season of gratitude, I keep coming back to that Thanksgiving plate. It's not about filling it perfectly, it's about filling it honestly, taking more of what nourishes you, less of what drains you, choosing your portions with intention, not guilt, because that's where real contentment lives, in the freedom to say, this is what I want on my plate. This is what makes me me. So maybe this week, ask yourself, what would it look like to stop apologizing for the life you've chosen and start celebrating it? Take what brings you peace, leave the rest. And remember, you're not falling behind. You're just living a life that fits you. Until next time, keep going.